Hey Stan,
Hey, Steve.
welcome live on Facebook.
Yep. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent, good to see you, Stan. Um, so Stan, we're going to be talking tonight a little bit about the sports nutrition and the role of sports nutrition, in particular with the young athletes, aren't we?
Yeah, indeed.
Stan, I thought before we talk about that, it'd be good to give people a little bit of an idea of your background to get some flavour as to what your role is in nutrition, because you're not a nutritionist, are you? So it'd be good to kind of set the record straight with regards to why you've got a particular interest in nutrition when it comes to young athletes in particular.
Yeah, that's true, Steve. I think why we're talking about nutrition today with the young athletes is because I work with athletes of all ages, and within that elite group, high performance athletes, you do get to work with young athletes, of a standard that is above average.
So Stan, who's the most elite who's the most elite performer that you've worked with in your history?
Oh, well, I've worked with, you want to talk about, say, Christine Ohurugu, for instance, who's the world champion and Olympic champion there.
Yeah.
You want to talk about, Jody Williams, European champion there, and the double world youth champion. You want to talk about Desiree Henry. These are double world champions, and I worked with them as juniors. So hence my interest with nutrition on this subject.
Yeah, excellent, good. So you've seen it at its best and at its worst, haven't you, when it comes to nutrition in terms of when athletes get it right, but also when it goes horribly wrong as well. So it'd be good to get an idea of the difference and what can happen when it goes really right, but also give us some of the lowdown about how athletes can get it wrong as well, because that's always quite interesting to see what happens when people get it wrong.
Yeah, indeed. I think just like many other components and elements of running, this is a subject matter that is not, that an athlete does not just pick up because they are talented in running. It's something that they have to learn. It's something that you have to put before them, an education process, so it runs in tandem with what they are doing from their talent point of view. Basically, It's something that has got to be put in together with the coaching intervention. Not that you as a coach are putting it in, but you are bringing it into bear, just like I bring all other practitioners and professionals, for the areas that I think that my athletes require that service. I bring in the appropriate professionals to deal with that, with that area. So it's similar also with the nutrition, but the education part there, that's my responsibility as a coach. But the practical and the details of that, yes, then I have to bring in and refer them to an appropriately qualified professional, on matters nutrition, be it for lifestyle nutrition or for sports nutrition.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. What I was just thinking about there, Stan, it's like a car, isn't it? That you can drive a high performance car, but the high performance car hasn't got petrol in it. In a car, you'd know, but in a young athlete, you're not really going to be able to see all the signs until it's a bit too late, right? So what kind of things do you look for in terms of athletes turning up at the track or about to start training? Are there particular warning signs that you look for when it comes to athletes having not prepared or got ready in that state to be able to run?
Yeah, it's really very common. There are two things that you can tell an athlete is in low reserve. One is rest. They're coming in for the morning session. It's easy to see, a lethargic body, a lethargic body language. That is one of the telltale signs. To start looking even closely about what are these telltale signs for. Is that lack of recovery, they did not sleep well, or they had a late night, or this is something because that's coming in within the realm of nutrition? Is it something, why are they feeling, or rather, why are they looking so lethargic? Is that something to do with energy levels? So yes, those are the things that you can easily pick out, and not just in their body language, but also as soon as they start training, you can see, their body expression relative to their, the performances that about them. Maybe they're not even hitting their targets or getting nowhere near their targets in certain reps or certain sets, which could indicate, some deficiencies in one element of their, their physiological system or other. And, nutrition is usually, close up there.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So it's really good. So Stan, just on to our first question. So why is nutrition in particular important for young athletes?
I cannot overemphasize this, cannot be ever overemphasized. I'm sure most coaches would agree and other practitioners would agree, because that for a young athlete, as opposed to an adult athlete, a young athlete, the nutrition is, the demand for the nutrition is divided. It's divided with one other major component, physiological component, which is growth. Yeah. So that's a huge chunk of their daily dietary requirements that's going towards that purpose, that role, that purpose of the body, to build the body to grow, for them to grow. And yet, when they come for training, I'm asking for all that energy and all that nutritional intake to also be directed, to be made available for the demands of training. Now, you can imagine what's happening there if, the resources are not, are not enough for growth, and they're not even enough, let alone for training and the competition. So that's why it is very important for young athletes to have the awareness and the appreciation that what they are putting inside their bodies has got many other functions. The demand for it is higher because of the growth and maturation and many other things that are happening in their body that demand nutrition first and foremost. And only then will it be made available for their training.
Yeah.
So there is a competition for that nutritional resource in their body between their health and their, their training and their performance. That's why it is important that there is a deliberate one. First of all, there is appreciation that there's got to be adequate nutrition in the, in their lifestyle for them, for it to be able to serve them well in their training and competition goals.
Yeah, no, excellent. That's really good, really good. So it's like it's just a simple maths equation, really. They've got more energy going out. They need to put much more energy coming into that to be able to sustain the energy demands of what they're about to do. So super, super important. Whereas an adult doesn't necessarily have that same energy demand because the growth isn't there as well. So that's a really important thing to differentiate adults and young athletes in particular. Stan, there's a temptation for them to fuel on the wrong types of foods, though, isn't there? So the really high energy, fast release, sugary foods and drinks in particular. Drinks are a nightmare, aren't they, for young athletes?
Absolutely, absolutely. They are, I think, like many other things, there's tons of information out there, and there's tons of, social models out there. And for young athletes, that can be very confusing. What do I follow? Which models do I follow? Yeah. And if there's not proper education on the part of the coaching, that can become, a very difficult, a challenging area for them. Because yes, like you point out, there's way too much of the stuff, other things that are going there. For me, what is important is for the athlete to understand that there is lifestyle nutrition first, which is the nutrition that they require as a teenager or as a young athlete, or rather as a young person. That is critical, because sports nutrition, the quality of their sports nutrition can only come from the quality of their lifestyle nutrition.
Yeah.
If there's a shortfall within their lifestyle nutrition, there's little that sports nutrition is going to do, because we basically are building on a very depleted, foundation, as it were. So the lifestyle nutrition for me is critical, and I like to get, the families involved, people around the young people involved in that education, because they're the ones that go out and do the shopping. They're the ones that go out, that are with the young athletes, most all the time, and therefore they can provide that guidance at home, so that when the athlete starts choosing what to eat, it is really not based on, social images that are out there, which young people are bombarded with, but it becomes a question of, why do I need what I eat? What's important? What they eat now is now based on, what do I need for my health, growth, and what do I need for my training? So that's the position that I like to get the junior athletes to.
Yeah, good, excellent. That brings us nicely on to the next question, Stan. So what do you think the major struggle is with young athletes that are in performance, but maybe in a family where the rest of the family doesn't compete? Because I think that's probably if that rings any bells for anyone that's watching us live on Facebook, we'd love to hear from you, to see what you're currently doing with your young athletes at home, or you may be a young athlete at home and mum and dad and the rest of the family don't partake in sports so much. But what do you think the challenges are there? Because that's probably a difficult situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Indeed it is, because one of the issues, rather common issues that you get there, is that their eating habits and eating patterns, are themselves do not meet up with the structure of training. As an example, they've got a training session in the morning, say at 10 o'clock. If there's not an education there and an awareness, then what time they are having their breakfast could just be any time, or in some cases, they just pick up and nibble on a snack that is there, and they think they are ready to come in for training. Most, 10 out of 10 cases, that's where you start with young athletes, until you bring in education to start telling them, no, there's more to this. If you don't get your nutrition right, then your training, you're not going to benefit, a lot from your training, because the body's adaptations relies on the nutritional intake. And so a whole lot of that work that they are putting in might just go to waste, because there's nothing inside their body to assist the body, through adaptations to the various stimuli that you are bringing to bear on the body. So yes, that's what young athletes struggle with. The other thing is, I think much of it also is very social, Steve, I must say. It's just, they just follow what their peers do, who are probably not involved in sport. They just follow what is happening sometimes within the home household, situation, and maybe sometimes the timing and the quality and the quantity of that nutrition might not support them directly and deliberately for what they do in the training, in training or in competition. Another one also that I find as a struggle is food choices. Young athletes, struggle with food choices, because it's, what should I eat? Again, because there's not been, enough education within that area that, these are the type of foods that you need for it. They usually go out, their choice of food is usually based on taste or sight. And usually, in most cases, it's not really the type of foods that they, that would give them, the quality of nutrition that they are looking for, or the quantity of nutrition they are looking for their lifestyle. So you do get, those are the main issues, the struggles that you get there. Another one that I've noticed also is post-training. When they've finished the training, it's because they are tired. The last thing usually they want to do is have the discipline to be deliberate on what they are going to be eating. What they want to do is just go home and rest. And that by rest is go in and lie down, have a sleep. And yet that's the time when the body really needs to be replenished, refueled, rehydrated, so the recovery and the adaptations are higher. So it's really, again, it sits within the area of education.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So I'm 100% behind you there with the education aspects as well, because I think that's the only way you're going to be able to get out of those difficult situations where the young adult, young athlete may not be supported in the. Because when I was growing up, I had two sets of friends. So I had two sets of friends that they all pretty much everyone played sport or did some kind of sport. There were the guys that mum and dad were ex-athletes themselves, and they kind of got little Johnny into sport. So he was cool because mum and dad were doing it anyway, so it's very easy for him to transition to it. And then there was little Bobby. So Bobby grew up in a family that didn't do sport, and they didn't know how to support the child so much, and it did show eventually. But it was interesting that little Johnny, who had all the sport in the world, I don't know, maybe it was too easy for him. Maybe he didn't have to work for it, and he didn't continue. But little Bobby did really well, and he had the hunger, had the drive. So I think it's kind of swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It really depends on the motivations and the strategies of the children behind that, and the motivations of the parents as well to help condition that. But I wholly think it does come from the individual in terms of the young athlete. So it's just that spark, isn't it, that makes it want to succeed.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that what we're talking about here is really not what the young athlete needs to do, or rather what the young athlete needs to do. What we're talking about is the need to appreciate, the role of nutrition in their, both in their life as well as in their training and in their competition. There are no guarantees with nutrition, really, there's not. But what we know is that good nutrition would enhance performance, and poor nutrition would hinder performance and the training. That one is a known and a given. As to the different strategies that different people employ, there are as many strategies out there as there are different, demographics and, different people and different types of food that we need to eat for. There's not a magic bullet type of food that an athlete needs. It's just the awareness of what it is that they prefer within their own culture, within their own personal and individual, lifestyle, and what within that will be helpful to sustain their, their athletic lifestyle. I think that's the appreciation and the attitude that I would like to be making a contribution to.
Stan Terry's back, Terry Vaughan. So he says, hi, Stan the man, and Stephen. Nutrition is such an important topic. So Terry, it'd be good to hear why you think nutrition is such an important topic. We know you run, but how do you use nutrition to help improve your performance as an athlete as well, or a regular runner? So very interesting, very interesting. So so Stan, in terms of like incorporating nutrition into a young athlete's lifestyle and schedule, what do you think parents need to look for? What do you think young athletes themselves need to be aware of when it comes to improving their nutrition for an athletic lifestyle?
Yeah, I think what among many other key and important things that parents would need to appreciate is that they are a very active, child needs, that level of activity needs to be reflected in their nutrition.
Yeah.
So once that appreciation is there, therefore, as adults, they would look for the appropriate interventions to ensure that that requirement is met for their for their sibling, and rather for their child, to be able to meet their training and competition goals. So that's where it would be with parents. Like I've mentioned and before, I involve parents at some point when it is appropriate. I involve them, in my discussions, with their child on matters of nutrition, and point them in the direction where they need to go, to get further guide, to get further and specific guidance for their, for their child, because there would be different, nutrition is, it can be a very broad area, different individuals have got different conditions, and only parents and adults would be able to deal with that, going to the right professionals to get the right intervention. The one I'm talking about is where it is about where the focus is on the amount of energy and the calories that they bring to the track for them to be able to pursue, what they want to do, in terms of athletic training and athletic performance. That's the one where I would be directing them to, directing their attention and focus to.
Yeah, brilliant. Excellent stuff. So just there, Terry's just made the comment. Let's see what's Terry saying. So we've got Rachel Adams, who's asking, what are your top tips for breakfast choices with teenagers and Monday morning training sessions? So I think this is Rachel Adams that we know. So I guess it depends for different sports. Rachel's background is rowing. So I think the sport specific nutrition's probably got to play its part in that. But I guess there's some general underlying themes that run with regards to nutrition, but it is very sport specific, I think. So that's probably something to bear in mind there. But Stan, for runners, what would you say your strategy is for breakfast choices, and especially with teenagers and Monday morning training sessions?
Yeah, I think what is important, what I can acknowledge is that's one meal that they struggle with. Most of the athletes that I've worked with, breakfast. And it's not uncommon for teenagers, really, because that's a social thing that they have, on either not having breakfast or having, too little breakfast, relative to what they are going to be doing, what they need to be doing. For me, if they're going to be having a workout, to think about breakfast as, to start thinking from breakfast, that for me is a bit too late. I would look at the supper, the meal they had the night before. That's where I would like them to focus on, so that there's enough loading there of the necessary nutrients in their body, so there's enough when they wake up. When they break the fast, breaking the fast is the fast they've had overnight, and they're breaking it. So at the point of breaking it, there is enough in that tank where they can be able to be topping up that morning at the time relative to whatever their digestive processes is. If the training is at 10, at what time is their body able to deal with their intake and make the fuel available for that training? So that would be the general guideline. As for a specific and individual athlete, what they need is really dependent on their own body mass, as well as the load of training they're going to encounter on that particular day. Those will be the two things that would determine, how much energy levels, how much calories they need, for that training. Yeah, that will be the guideline. If they are going for a short rowing sprint, their demands would be less than if they are going for a long, endurance rowing, exercise or training session, for instance. And similarly for runners as well. It's that what training they are going to do, and then work backwards to what fuel they need and how much of it they need.
Sounds good. Specificity all the way, Stan.
Yeah, indeed.
Thanks very much for the question, Rachel. Good to hear from you. So Stan, just to round up, what would you say your top 3 tips are, takeaways for anyone thinking about introducing nutrition into a young athlete's regime, or anyone that's got a young athlete, or they are a young athlete and they want to look at optimizing their nutrition? We'll obviously get Jane back, our sports nutritionist, at some stage to talk about this, because I think it'd be really good to have a specialist talking about it. But in terms of your views as a coach, what are your top takeaways?
My top one key at the top of that, Steve, is educate the athlete. Athlete, get yourself educated, the right education, basically on the fundamentals, the basics that we need for your nutrition, because that is critical. Otherwise, a lot of the training that you're doing could go to waste because there's not a backup system or a backup system there that is harnessing all the good work that you are doing. So let's get ourselves educated there on the appreciation and the awareness of what you are currently, what your current nutrition looks like and what it should look like. And then secondly, do as much as possible, to reduce that disparity, because disparities there will be definitely, for young athletes, what they are currently eating and what they should be eating. And I'm not talking about food here, I'm talking about the quantity and the quality of the energies that they need. There will be disparities there. So try and narrow those, disparities, along the way. The second one is let the nutrition save the structure of the athlete. All right. So let them grow with their nutrition choices. It's a trial and error, what they're having and when they should be having it, until it is, the pattern is out there to know, well, when I'm having an endurance session, I normally feel good. I feel I have got so much when I've had X or this type of food and X amount of this type of food. So it is all set. The trouble with not having a regime, a nutritional regime, is relying on hit and miss and spur of the moment type of meals. And you have athletes that turn up, it's a competition. Now they want a special meal because I'm going for a competition. The body is not conditioned for that. And then they have certain issues there, like, stomach distress or digestional distress, because what they've taken on this particular day, they haven't come through with the body on it. And yet it's very simple. You can incorporate your nutrition into your training and keep a journal and a diary on, what the body's feedback is based on the nutrition that you've taken. And from that, they can come up with a very good pattern on of an individualized, nutritional picture. That would be my takeaway. The next one, the last one there would be, it's really about keep it simple. Let's keep nutrition simple. There's a lot of the sophisticated stuff out there, but I think the natural foods, the wholesome foods would, have a lot of the requirements that the young athlete would require. And if we went that natural route of natural foods or whole foods, we usually would not be, found amiss in the process.
Yeah. So Terry just made an important comment there, Stan, just on the back of your comment there as well. I think he actually got in there before you, Stan, so you need to sharpen up, my friend. But Terry was saying that he made a lot of big mistakes looking at spent a small fortune, he says, on some of these fancy electrolyte and energy gels and stuff. But I think that's a common mistake. So a lot of people do the same thing. So like Stan said, keeping it simple is going to be a lot better for sports nutrition rather than mixing it up with too many complex synthetic foods. Excellent, Stan. So we're back on Wednesday, aren't we?
Yes, we're back on Wednesday, Steve.
Brilliant.
We're back on Wednesday, yeah.
Good stuff, good. And we'd love to hear from more people. So if you've got any of your own running tips, we'd love to hear from you as well. We might even invite Terry to come on the show. Terry, if you're still listening, let me know and you can come on the show with us and have a little banter with us. Stan the man and Stephen. And I'm sure you'd be able to hold your own, so you'd be cool. But we could get a guest on, I think, wouldn't it, Stan?
You don't. No problem at all.
Terry, let us know if you're up for that. It'd be well up for you coming on. So just let me know and we'll email you the link for tonight. Or Wednesday night even. But Stan, have we got a subject for Wednesday night yet?
Yeah, if we are, all things being equal, I think Rob Thickpen will be joining us. We're going backwards and deal with different perspective on strength and conditioning. Great, perfect, good. That sounds good. It's very exciting. Yeah, very exciting, good. And we're getting less glitches now with the tech, so that's even better. Loving that. But it's been great talking to you, Stan. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you very much for everyone that listened and stuck around to hear the wise old man on my, where is he? There he is, the wise old man talk. And if you do want to come and get involved with one of Stan's running sessions, we've still got the online program running. We are going to be opening the clinic up this week and next week. So we've got a couple of clinics that are going to be opening. So we'd love you to come along and take part in the online sessions still with Stan. And if you need any help or support, we've got the online clinics open as well as the physical clinics as well now. So we're excited to get up and running as well. But for now, it's bye-bye from me.
It's bye-bye from me, and thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers.